Dear Madam Commissioner, dear Mayors, dear Director Generals, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to European Viable Cities Day in Stockholm. My name is Per Granqvist and I'll be your host for this event. It's my pleasure to guide you to this intense 2 hours, and I'd also like to welcome everyone who's with us on the live stream. This is the 7th consecutive year we celebrate the European Viable Cities Day, a collaboration with European Commission and Viable Cities, a Swedish publicly funded innovation program for climate-neutral cities where quality of life and prosperity is in focus. We all share the same mission, increasing the quality of life for all while lowering emissions, enabling current and future generations to live well within planetary boundaries. Or, to put it differently, to create cities that are livable, lovable, and viable. Our cities will be climate neutral by 2030, and the mission is the same at the local and the national and at the European levels. Climate contracts are essential in this. It's a central tool for us, and we will discuss their importance a lot today. We will also witness 48 emission cities and forerunners sign these contracts and the commitments to the missions today. We will start today's event with the formal welcoming speeches from our host at the European Commission and Viable Cities. So I'm going to hand over now to Annika Wepplin-Korsitnek, head of the European Commission's representation in Sweden, and Anders Wijkman, chairman of the board of Viable Cities.
Join me, Anders.
Ska stå bredvid varandra?
Ja.
Okay.
Vi är långa ståtliga så vi kan ju stå här.
Yeah.
Dear Commissioner, dear mayors and dear members of the city's missions, ladies and gentlemen. Warm welcome also from the European Commission. It's a great pleasure for me to be here again at this annual event that we and the European Commission's representation in Sweden is organizing together with Viable Cities. As we are approaching the end of this year and entering soon 2025, we also approach 30 years of Sweden being member of the European Union. We have gone from a very slight and rather shaky support of the membership to a stable and steadily growing support of now being around 64% of the Swedish population that actually thinks that it's a great thing that we are part of the European Union. Sweden is gaining from being an EU member. The single market, the research cooperation, the funding, the regional cooperation and the funding, just to mention a few. But Sweden also has a lot to offer to the Union, not the least by its innovative approaches to green and digital transition, which I think is brilliantly showcased today here. As a wise person recently said, who happens to be in the room, addressing climate challenges has little to do with the climate itself, but it's about transforming the societies we live in. And while doing this crucial transition, it's also very important that the political choices and the policy mix that we use work in unison. And I think Viable Cities is really a great example of this kind of approach. I have had the privilege, we were just in lunch before, I've had the privilege to actually follow the work of Viable Cities since its inception in, I was going to say 1917, but I'm not that old, 2017. And I think it's a great testimony to the commitment of the staff of Viable City, the board, and also of the ever-increasing numbers of participating cities that this initiative is not only ongoing and keep on going, but also gets stronger and stronger every year. So I just want to express my great congratulations to all of you for this and for continuing working on this. So thank you.
Well, like Annika, I'm very happy to be able to welcome you to this event, where on the one hand, we celebrate the European Day for Viable Cities, which we have done now for quite some time. But we are also welcoming a lot of new cities in our group or in our operations. We're moving from 23 to 48 cities. And that's a tall order. That's a huge challenge for all of us, but we are very, very happy, and we welcome you in particular to this event. We also need to extend a special welcome to some of our foreign guests. We have guests from Brazil, from Curitiba. We have guests from the US, from Europe, of course, in particular from Spain. We have Patrick Child, who is the operating head of the City Mission. And of course, we have the new Swedish commissioner, Jessika Roswall, who is not only a new commissioner, but she has a portfolio, which is, of course, I think, very, very interesting, and for us, very important. I also would like to welcome Allan Larsson, who is the real initiator of this process, and who has been a strong supporter for many years. We have the Director Generals of the agencies that support us in particular, Vinnova, Darja Isaksson, Formas, Johan Kuylenstierna, and the Energy Agency, Clara, over there. So once again, all of you, very welcome. Those of us who work in viable cities, we have of course been very, very clear about the important role of cities in the transformation to low carbon energy societies. Cities amount to 70% of energy consumption in the world, a lot of the material throughput. So it's a given that we have to focus very much on cities. And we have worked hard over the years to explore intelligent ways and intelligent solutions forward. And this work, I think, is even more important today, because we had COP29 a few weeks ago, which pushed most of the issues forward. There was one success, carbon trading, but there was also a failure. The language that was agreed upon last year to transition away from fossil fuels, which was a very modest language, I would say, or cautious language, not even that remained in COP29. So it just shows that petrostates still have quite a domination. We have had a political backlash with regard to climate, at least in the US. We will have Donald Trump back in the White House. We don't know what it means, but we can be assured that it's not positive for the climate action and for the climate convention. And we have also had some backlash in Europe. We saw it in the European elections, and we have increasingly people questioning the climate mitigation agenda. They perceive that inflation is partly due to climate action. I would say wrongly, but that's a perception. And I think we have to be clear about that the Green Deal, we have to fight for it, and we have to fight to strengthen the Green Deal and its all parts in the coming years. And then, of course, we are dependent on governments, and we have seen quite some action in some of the European member states where governments have not really pushed the agenda forward, rather the opposite. So the city level will be even more important, and we have to be more proactive. And we are trying in Bible cities to push the envelope. We've had two important meetings this week. One where we gathered some of the potential investors in climate finance, banks, pension funds, etc. We had a day conference, very, very important. Yesterday we had some of our foreign friends discussing public procurement and how cities can aggregate demand, also very important. And in that dimension we also concluded that if we face some challenges with regard to climate finance and funding, the problem is of course much greater in low-income countries. So whatever we do, we have to keep in mind that the north-south dimension is important, and that whatever we do, we should try to extend links and help and support to low-income countries. So we have a lot to do in the years to come. I'm sure we will have a productive day today. And once again, I wish you very, very welcome. And I would like to thank Olga and her team for the organization, because that's also a tall order. Thank you.
The emission-oriented approach has been a guiding principle for viable cities since the idea emerged a decade ago. It's an act of radical trust in humanity, believing that an audacious goal will inspire people from many backgrounds to mobilize and band together to solve a big, hairy problem. The power of the mission-oriented approach is evident in the European Union's decision to foster innovation in several important areas for humanity. The EU Cities Mission, in which more than 100 cities have pledged to be climate neutral by 2030, is part of the ambition of achieving a climate neutral continent by 2050. Please welcome Commissioner Jessika Roswall, the European Commissioner for Environment, Water Resilience and a Competitive Circular Economy. She will share her remarks on Cities Mission beyond forerunner cities and the ongoing mobilization of Europe for the Green Deal. Please have the stage.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, representatives of cities from across Europe and beyond. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today in one of my first public engagements as European Commissioner for Environment, only a few days since I started. And also, of course, a privilege for me to welcome my new colleagues from the Commission to my home country. The presence of also so many of my visionary cities represented here today fills me with hope and confidence. Cities are the beating heart of our society. They cover less than 4% of the EU's landmass, but are the home for 75% of our population. They account for over 70% of global CO2 emissions and consume more than 65% of the world's energy. While these numbers reflect significant challenges, they also underscore an opportunity. Cities are uniquely positioned to lead the transformation that we need. I'm inspired by the bold leadership of Swedish citizens. Stockholm, as the first ever European green capital in 2010, set the stage for the ambitious path that have followed. Today, others continue to pave the way by embracing initiatives like the Covenant of Mayors for Climate and Energy and Green City Accord. These efforts not only combat climate change, but also enhance air and water quality, reduce noise, and promote biodiversity. Through the EU mission on climate neutral and smart cities, 112 European cities have committed to achieve climate neutrality by 2030. I'm proud that Swedish cities have been in the forefront of this movement, inspiring the framework itself and setting examples for other cities across Europe, because together these cities are set to reduce nearly 200 million tons of CO2, and that would correspond to the combined annual emissions of the Netherlands and Croatia. And that, I think, is what leadership really looks like. I therefore urge all cities here today to consider participating in initiatives such as the European Green Capital and Green Leaf Awards. Beyond recognition, these programs create a network of frontrunners who collaborate and share best practices, driving innovation and raising the bar for environmental stewardship. Ladies and gentlemen, the European Green Deal remains our guiding blueprint for sustainability. Despite obstacles that we face, political, practical and external, we must remain steadfast in our resolve. These challenges should inspire us to accelerate the green transition, not delay it. The benefits of climate action in cities are tangible. It means the clean air, quiet streets and green spaces. And Swedish and European cities are demonstrating this reality through innovations, urban design and community-driven projects. Your work sets a powerful example that can inspire others to follow. I'm particularly encouraged by the presence of Ukrainian representatives here today. In the face of the hardship that Ukrainian people face as a result of the war. So let me reaffirm the EU's commitment to stand by Ukraine for as long as it takes to win the war, but also to help you to rebuild your country and your cities once the war is over. And I think the collaboration between Swedish and Ukrainian cities serves as a testament of the resilience of communities working together for a better and more sustainable future. Dear friends, your climate and environment actions are not only beneficial for the planet, they are also key drivers of economic competitiveness. For example, local collaboration with businesses are fostering innovation and growth in the clean technology sector. Swedish cities, with their advanced network of cooperation, are giving European clean tech a competitive edge on the global stage. And the 112 cities in the EU mission provides an unparalleled opportunity to scale up green solutions. And this is crucial for our work to deliver a clean and just transition for Europe. Today, as some of you are signing a new version of your climate city contracts, I want to commend you on your ambitions and your commitment. These contracts are tangible framework for transformative action that inspires others across the EU. As an European Commissioner, I'm committed to supporting your efforts, amplifying your success, and ensuring that the voice of cities remains central in shaping our policies. Together, we can transform not only our cities, but our entire continent into a beacon of sustainability, resilience, and innovation. Thank you for your leadership. Let us continue to work together to build a greener and more resilient Europe for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Commissioner. Every year we ask our cities to send us video postcards with quick updates of what's happening on their work. Stockholm, Göteborg and Malmö have been chosen this year, and we will start with Göteborg, where the mayor and vice mayor have sent us this greeting.
Vi måste vara möjliggörarna så att vi tillsammans kan bygga ett grönare Göteborg som är rustat för framtiden.
Det handlar om att använda ny teknik, göra det lätt att göra rätt och prioritera det som skapar en bättre framtid. Kom ihåg att det är de som är unga som under sin livstid påverkas mest av att vi lyckas.
Det finns inte en stor grej, en lösning som kan få ner våra utsläpp. Utan vi måste jobba på en mängd olika sätt för att göra omställningen och gripa tag i frågan från alla olika håll. Och om vi ska lyckas att nå våra miljö- och klimatmål, då måste vi inkludera industrin, näringslivet, våra förvaltningar och alla göteborgare i det arbetet. Omställningen får inte bara vara till för några få. En inkluderande omställning där alla kan bidra och alla får det bättre av samhällsförändringen, det är den enda möjliga omställningen. Alla ska med.
Tillsammans ska vi skapa det nya normala så att Göteborg står sig starkt också i framtiden.
Det är verkligen dags att steppa upp nu. För även om vi är på rätt väg och har mycket kvar att göra, tillsammans så ska vi skapa en hållbar framtid för kommande generationer.
Thank you, Göteborg. As many cities know, the mission to increase citizens' quality of life while lowering carbon emissions may be daunting. However, our cities have realized that if they're focusing on how to do the most with minimum impact on the planet, it's also a way to rethink and redesign for the better. Luckily, this process is sped up by learning and inspiring others to follow. Next on the agenda is a discussion on why expanding the mission in Sweden, Europe and globally is essential to us all. And I'd like to invite Olga Kordas, Program Director of Viable Cities and Associate Professor at KTH, the Royal Institute of Technology in Stockholm, to give a few remarks to set the stage.
Thank you, Per. Thank you, everybody, coming here to celebrate European Viable Cities Day. And thank you, Commissioner, for a fantastic keynote. I think that all of us, we are looking forward for this time of your work in European Commission. And you could be assured that it's not only you who is going to support us, but we all will support your time and provide you all kind of tips and tricks during your stay in the Commission. But mission is about at least 100 cities in Europe to become climate neutral. But 100 cities are not enough. That we know. So it's very important to scale up mission, meaning that cities are learning from each other, but also cities who are not part of the mission yet, they can learn from other cities. So we in Sweden, and so 7 cities who are part of the cities mission on European level, together with 7 cities in Spain, and together with our sister organization, Cities 2030, inspired by our board member, do we have Carolina here? Carolina Skog. So we formulated something that we called Valencia Green Charter Declaration. And this is about supporting the mission. It's about asking Commission to show even more of leadership in order to support cities for runners, both financially, but also with the policy development. But at the same time, saying that we need to have good mechanisms to scale up the mission. So after this, more than 50 cities in Europe supported this declaration. And I'm very happy that yesterday, the mayor of Valencia submitted this declaration, or sent this declaration to the President Ursula von der Leyen. And this also shows that in order to scale up mission, in order for Europe to become this first green continent, we need to work together. And I'm very proud that Swedish cities, all the 48 cities, would also pave the way to others. And let me say, when we're talking about scaling the mission, that we can come to the nitty-gritty of that. We're talking about scaling out. It's about learning, testing something in one city, and scale up and show the experience and the way how to do to all other cities. It's also about scaling up, bringing the mechanism as new policies, new regulations, and also new financial instruments in order to make those successful solutions as a new normal. But it's also scaling deep. And scaling deep is about our mental blocks, it's about our behaviors, but it's also about the notion of just transition. When we're talking about just transition, it's not only about, as also the Commissioner and we know our mayors are talking about, it's not only about CO2 reduction, but it's about quality of life for all. It's about competitive advantage to European companies, and it's also about attractive green cities we all want to live in. So, not least, in this declaration, we express the need to combine the thoughts of and work on climate adaptation and climate mitigation. Together with us today, we have a former Vice Mayor of Valencia, who also provided his insights about this terrible flooding in Valencia. So now we know that it's the climate finance, it's not only about costs, but it's about investments. And we also know that cost of inaction, non-action, is much higher than this investment that we need to do. So this is about the kind of how the mission is showing and the cities participating in the mission, showing the leadership in the world. It's more and more important, as also Anders Wijkman told us. But it's also about friendship. It's about love. It's about supporting each other. So it's about us as people who bring hope for the better future. Thank you.
Thank you. There is a group of dedicated government agencies with a forward-looking, hands-on approach who support this mission. And let us meet and hear from them all. I will welcome the 6 agencies up here, starting with Johan Gyllenstierna, Director General Formas, a government research council for sustainable development. Darja Isaksson, Director General Vinnova, Sweden's innovation agency. Clara Helstad, Head of Sustainability Industry at the Swedish Energy Agency. Kristina Zetterström, Head of Sustainable Industry at the Swedish Agency for Economic and Regional Growth. Nanna Wikholm, Head of Planning Unite, the Swedish Environmental Protection Agency. And Sven Hunhammar, Head of National Targets for Environmental and Health, the Swedish Transport Administration. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what the power of government mobilization looked like. And if we should have more supporters, we will have a bigger stage next year. I have one question to all of you. Let's start with you, Mr. Gyllenstierna. From the point of view of a government research council, how important is showing leadership in a global transition?
It is extremely important. I mean, we fund innovation and research for change. If you don't have leaders, if you don't have actors who would like to drive this change, we would have no one to fund. It will save money for the government, you know, but that's not what our purpose is. So, I mean, that's a simple answer. In a global context, we need leaders in Europe to really drive the transition, and that is what I think we see in this room today. I've been working mostly in the multilateral sort of setting. If 10 years ago someone would ask me, do you know, 10 years from now, would we gather hundreds of cities to drive climate transition in the world? I would say, no way. This is the change we see today, and it's actually very inspiring.
I totally agree. Ms. Isaksson, how do your innovation agencies see viable cities in sort of relation to Horizon Europe?
It's just cities are at the core of our challenges as well as our most important opportunities. We know that. Right now, however, we're currently on a path to 3.1 degrees global warming at the end of this century, meaning within our children's lifetime. We may be facing a world where a lot of what we now take for granted is no longer there. But actually, in cities represented here today, we see that we're already nurturing the seeds that make transformative change possible. Accelerating these seeds is what we need to do to get to the greener, healthier, prosperous cities. So one way to put it is that cities, that's where the urgent meets the actual possibility. All of you are leaders who are choosing to act. All of you are leaders that need to remember, and this room helps us do that. You are so not alone. We are now, government agencies, cities, civil servants everywhere, committed to taking this action, working with the multi-level governance that we know it takes, because of the contextualized solutions we will need in different places, requires us to do that. Also, because we know that's what it takes for scaling. So, through Viable Cities, the climate contracts, we together have created a platform where we can make bigger impact together. I'm really, really proud and grateful that we are coordinating experts in the EU mission on climate neutral and smart cities, because that provides an opportunity for us to even better support cities in making the most of all the mechanisms at the EU scale, at getting the dialogue on what kind of policy changes are needed, and also making the most of other opportunities like driving urban transitions, for instance, where we see good outcomes. We are really there, often coordinating complex projects. Why does it matter? Because I think we all know that one-on-one we can't succeed. We will be too slow. We will be too small. But together, when we share risk, when we learn from every single experiment, regardless of what city it happened in, when we share risk together, when we learn, when we start using shared tools for blended finance, for requirements in procurement, cities are the best equipped to actually drive incentives for the new markets we need, and interestingly enough, that the most forward-leaning companies are asking for, because they know that's how they build competitiveness. So a few words on what I'm hoping for. I think my time is kind of up. I hope we use this to continue improving this ability to work in this multi-level governance. Now that we have the platform, it's really working. Let's run with it. Also driving the systems demonstrations, because technology is one piece, business model is another, infrastructure investments is a third, regulation is a fifth. When we bring them together within different challenges, we solve them more parallel. And again, the practices that we can scale. What stops you if you've seen a city set good requirements for fossil-free construction machines? Just take it, run, scale. And I hope we make the most of new opportunities. For instance, the new European Bauhaus, the new European societal challenges. Because also, when we talk about engaging our cities, citizens, like we heard from Gothenburg, remember that the numbers show citizens understand that climate change is real. They are asking us to change. They are asking for opportunities to take part in it. So the opportunity is here. You are the ones leading it. It's happening. We can scale it. Thank you.
Lovely. Ms. Hellstad, from your perspective at the Energy Agency, how are you supporting the mission?
Well, of course, it's so important, I think, to first congratulate Viable Cities and all the cities for this wonderful work. I've been following it very closely since the start. And I could see that, well, one important thing is, of course, the European collaboration. And within the European Union, we have very many, we are sharing the same regulation, and we are working hard on policy issues as well as financing and other supporting mechanism. But I would also like to highlight the collaboration bilaterally with the different countries and also on a global level, because that is also important, the link between the European Union and different nations, and find these solutions we could share and have very interesting and promising examples around the globe, I think, and that would I like to highlight.
Lovely. Ms. Zetterström, how is... Thank you. They're all saying applaudable things. I agree. Yeah. Zetterström, how is the Agency for Regional Growth working to ensure transition is happening in all regions of Sweden?
Yes, we support cities and regions throughout Sweden, from the south to the north. And besides that, we have offices in 9 different places, from Malmö to Luleå. So we also serve as a national contact point for European programs focused on sustainable urban development, including URBACT, and the European Urban Initiative, EUI. And we also manage the European Regional Development Fund. And inspired by URBACT and the European Urban Initiative and Learning in Sustainable, which is a program for exchange and learning in sustainable urban development, we have created opportunities for cities to form different kind of networks. And these networks aim to address challenges and scale up individual cities' solutions and initiatives. And this is an example of how we work to accelerate the transition to climate-neutral cities and sustainable regional development. And also in Sweden, there is 67 million euros earmarked for sustainable urban development within the European Regional Development Fund.
Thank you so much. Mrs. Wikholm, from your perspective at the Environmental Protection Agency, how are you supporting the mission?
I think we can support the mission in a number of ways. The Swedish EPA, we try to describe ourselves as a committed coordinating force for Sweden's environmental efforts. In this perspective, I think we can supply knowledge and statistics for the government, but also to other beneficiaries as the municipalities. We can give guidance to municipalities and regional authorities. And 2 that I would like to inform you is 1 for green planning and for nature-based solutions to climate adaptation. We develop policy instruments, and as Daria said, we will do that a lot better if we have a close dialogue with municipalities. And we grant subsidies at quite a large scale. The Swedish EPA has supported local climate investments in the Climate Leap program since 2015, with, for example, thousands of charging stations all around Sweden. But in this program, I would say that our view could be to bring on the green perspective. to look at all the environment quality objectives at the same time and hope to find multiple benefits: biodiversity, health, reduced emissions, and climate adaptation at the same time. And in many cases, it's on the local level in the municipalities that we will see living, working examples of these multifunctional solutions. So we hope that we can bring guidance and support to the participating cities. But we are also interested in learning from your examples and experience from all over Sweden and internationally.
And finally, Mr. Hunhammar, from your perspective, Swedish Transport Administration, what are you doing to support emission?
Thank you. Of course, we've formed the transport system together with many, and not at least the cities. But that's a very slow process, and the quick fixes in reducing emissions is actually electrification and fuels, and our role is rather limited there. But I would like to stress that we are a big public procurement. We buy from entrepreneurs in the construction sector for soon 100 billion Swedish krona a year. And we've had climate requirements on these public procurement since 2016. What kind of fuels they're using, how they do their management, what kind of materials and so forth. And for the, we've done this, some part of it we're doing in cooperation with cities. And we just actually last week we got a little prize for this. Trafikverket, Stockholm, Göteborg and Malmö for public procurement reducing emissions. So there we can do actually things on the ground today.
It's like, I think the conclusion is like the saying goes, never underestimate what a small group of committed large government agencies can do for you. Thank you so much. And I should also say that as a citizen of Sweden, this makes me very proud of Sweden. It is time for another video postcard, and this time it comes from Stockholm.
Cities are frontrunners in the climate transition all around the world, and Stockholm is part of the mission to climate neutrality. Stockholm has a long history of climate mitigation, but our goal is to reach even further, to a climate-positive Stockholm by 2030. We are also focusing on a just transition and to reduce our consumption-based emission by 50%. It is important that we work together as cities, in Sweden, within the viable cities, and in Europe. And we are happy to contribute with our knowledge so far. But we are also eager to learn from you, cities all around the world. Together, we can save the planet.
Stockholm is confronting climate challenges. Extensive and important work is underway, and the necessary transitions need to be fair. Those with a high environmental impact will need to contribute the most to the solutions, while vulnerable groups will need to be protected. Agenda 2030 is a unifying force in sustainable change, and Stockholm aims to be a leader in doing so. We're committed to being fossil-free by 2040. Stockholm should be climate positive as soon as 2030, and we integrate sustainability in all policies. Over 80% of buildings in Stockholm are connected to the city's district heating and cooling system, which uses 99% renewable or recycled fuels. The Stockholm Data Parks project helps in converting ICT businesses' excess heat into usable energy. We also have the Stockholm Exergy facility, Europe's largest biomass-based power plant, where the BECCS carbon capture technology is now being developed. The Stockholm Royal Seaport, a former industrial and port area, is now being developed into a sustainable eco-district that emphasizes digitalization and civic consultation. In order to make the city more climate resilient, Stockholm is making several improvements. For example, tree canopy coverage is being increased. Since Stockholm is a city of water, our tap water comes from Lake Mälaren, and the Henriksdal's wastewater treatment plant is one of the most modern in the world and helps ensure a cleaner Baltic Sea. Public transport is popular, but Stockholmers also love riding bikes, and the number of bicycle riders has doubled over the last 15 years. The number of electric vehicle charging stations is rapidly growing, and the citizens play an active role in these positive changes. Stockholm collaborates globally in the efforts to improve quality of life for a good life for all within the boundaries of the planet. Welcome to Stockholm.
And for those of our international guests who want to experience Stockholm a little bit more, you can go outside after this event, and there's Stockholm all for you. At Viable Cities, climate contracts are one of the essential tools we do to make things happen. And 4 years ago, history was made when 9 city mayors and the director general from government agencies signed the first Swedish contracts. Today, Viable Cities work with 48 cities and 6 government agencies to accelerate the climate transition. The climate contract is a Swedish innovation, replicated now in the EU, with many cities using it to guide their work. The climate contract is a vital tool to achieve that. A year-long process that ensures that climate issues touches all decision-making in aspects of local government. It ends with disagreement that we're going to sign today with cities, government agencies and Viable Cities, which in all parties commit to make concrete contributions to speed up the climate transition. We sign today, and tomorrow the process starts all over again. Because the processes and the contracts are developed over time. And in this, the latest version, we emphasize the importance of improving people's quality of life while lowering the planet's impact, all in line with the ambition of the new European Bauhaus and the EU Green Deal. So we will now witness this signing process, and it's time for me to say welcome to join me here in the front of the hall, dear mayors and director generals. This will be a little bit like herding cats, and I will do that in Swedish. But please come forward, everyone who's about to sign. Ju längre du är, ju längre bak ska du stå. Det är det enklare här. Du ser lång ut, så du får stå bak här. Hyggligt lång. Ska se här. Nej, ni är för långa. Ni får hoppa upp här. Det ska vara 2 rader här bak också. Ja, ska se här. Ja, så. Långa, vi ska se. Varsågod. Ska se. Vad ska ni förstå så här? Lite sidan. Ja. Nu är du den enda som inte lyder mig här. Du förstår snällt. Bra. Ska vi se. Titta, vi har några här. Kom på den här sidan. Vi ska se. Ni som är där bak, ni får tilta lite så här så du får plats fler människor. Här är några ni som är bak som är lite kortare, kom fram och tryck bak de långa. Oj, förlåt. Bra, någon flyttar bordet, det var ju väldigt klokt gjort. Nu ska vi se. Bra, ni är snygga och fina.
Alla de här stolarna där kommissionärerna satt, de ska vara tomma för fotografen. Så att alla som är här behöver flytta på sig.
Ja, alla som är... Ja, du... Ja. Okej, alla tar nu dåliga bilder med sina telefoner och sen kommer vi distribuera bra bilder sen. Alla, behövs de vara... Behöver vi flytta de här 2 eller kan de här egentligen vara kvar?
De behöver tyvärr flytta på sig.
Ja. Ja. Då ska jag få någon signal om när de ska skriva under. Ni kan börja med att fatta pennan. Har alla pennor förresten? Så är det inte någon som har... Ja. Annars kan ni bara röra handen. Det finns jurister som håller på med sen. Ja. Det vill vi verkligen inte ha. Jobbet om jag är den som fotobombar alltihopa. Är vi redo för signering? Klara, färdiga, signera. Och sen håller alla upp kontrakten. Håll upp kontrakten, titta på mig och så säger ni samtidigt livskvalitet. Livskvalitet. Perfekt. Strålande. Då försöker vi ta oss tillbaka till våra platser, hur bra det nu går. Ja. Det är bra att du log, även om inte du hade något. Du stod inte då och likade. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. I assume it should be herding cats. It was actually herding dogs, so it went a little bit faster than expected. The ceremony you just watched wasn't just a celebration of a goal, it was a milestone. We celebrate the effort so far, we look forward to everything they will achieve in the future and inspire others to go future. And in these times of sometimes climate pessimism and doom, I think it is vital to highlight the good things happening, and these 48 cities are now leading the way. And the transition to a society with a high quality of life and lower emission is already happening, and we should all be grateful for it. With that said, it's time for another postcard, this time from Malmö.
Katrin Stjernfeldt-Jamme och jag är kommunstyrelsens ordförande i Malmö. Klimatomställningen är en av vår tids största utmaningar som kräver en omfattande samhällsomställning. Malmö ska visa vägen. Vårt mål är tydligt. Ett klimatneutralt Malmö 2030, en mer sammanhållen stad med fler gröna jobb. Ingen löser detta ensam och samarbete ligger i Malmös DNA. Här samarbetar vi med näringslivet, civilsamhället, akademin och Malmöbor naturligt. Vi arbetar tillsammans med andra städer och nationella och globala aktörer för att inspirera och bli inspirerade. I Malmö har vi ett lokalt klimatkontrakt för att vi ska röra oss i samma riktning. Vi arbetar inom prioriterade områden såsom elförsörjning, mobilitet, byggande, konsumtion och cirkulär ekonomi. Och det är mycket som händer här som jag är stolt över. Tillsammans med näringslivet och RISE etablerar vi en resurshub som ska stödja cirkulära affärer och stärka innovationsförmågan. Vi har genomfört ett lokalt klimatrådslag med olika Malmöbor för att ta del av deras tankar och förslag om framtiden. Vi bygger om staden för att göra den mer levande och underlätta för de som åker kollektivt, går eller cyklar. Malmö investerar också i förnybar energi och vi gör oss redo för att fånga in koldioxid, lagra den eller använda den. I Malmö, liksom i andra städer, står vi inför stora sammanlänkande utmaningar som klimatkrisen och ojämlikhet. Därför måste klimatarbetet sätta människan i centrum och skapa helhetslösningar som löser flera frågor samtidigt. Vi vet att satsningar på till exempel hållbar mobilitet och mer grönska i staden ger tydliga sociala vinster. Malmö har tillsammans med ICLEI, Local Government for Sustainability, tagit fram ett särskilt åtagande, Malmö Commitment, som handlar om att inkludera social rättvisa i klimatarbetet. Och här tar vi i Malmö ledartröjan för att göra omställningen mer rättvis och inkluderande. När vissa länder och regeringar nu backar från sina åtaganden i Parisavtalet så behöver städerna växla upp. Vi behöver bli insläppta där besluten fattas och se till att finansieringen också når den lokala nivån där jobbet behöver göras. Tillsammans tar vi större och snabbare steg för att ställa om för Malmö, för planeten och för kommande generationer.
Let's hear from two more cities about how the contract is helping transition. We shall hear from Rosie Hoffer from Östersund and Lars Thunberg from Helsingborg. Please join me on stage. I'll start with you, Ms. Hoffer. What's the most important experience from working with climate contracts?
But first of all, I would like to thank all of you that came to Östersund this spring. We had such a great days, and you could enjoy skiing and ice skating and also some terrific food, gastronomy. So I would like to invite you back, and for all of those of you who hasn't been to Östersund yet, please give me a call and I will invite you for coffee. And second...
It was a lovely time in Östersund, it really was.
We had a lot of time. In Östersund, we have worked for a long time to become a fossil-free organization. And we know that we have a lot to do, and we are working towards it. And now we need to communicate and to broaden our goals to climate neutrality. And in this way, we have to support people with the right tools and in all different levels, in our own organization and in the society. And this is a big and ongoing task. We know that we will take time, and we have to think in new ways to do some new acting as well. And we have to work across different sectors in a better way. And I would also like to thank Viable Cities for this, because you have been such a great support, and this network really helps us to push things forward.
Thank you so much. What about you, Mr. Thunberg?
I also want to say thank you to you all. Helsingborg is very happy and proud to be a part of this Front Brothers project, and we all participate in it, and thank you. In Helsingborg, we are currently refining and finalizing a redraft of our climate and energy plan, and it will be adopted in December 17th, in a little bit more than 1 week. And this plan reaffirms our goals to be climate neutral 2030. And the work is comprehensive, and it forms the foundation for developing concrete action plans and a climate investment plan. Here we have been able to use the funding opportunities from both Viable Cities and Net Zero Cities to improve our methods and to mobilize other stakeholders to collaborate with us and to share the goal to be a climate neutral city. As part of the Net Zero Cities Pilot City program, for example, we have received funding for refine a roadmap for buildings and construction. In this area, the target is 50% climate reduction. And the project focuses on ensuring robust methods and calculating emissions and refining the ground rules of requirements specifications. And this program, it pushes us to do much more. And we might have managed to do this without funding, but the possibilities is much stronger now with the funding to accelerate progress, to strengthen capacity, and actively engage learning and knowledge sharing with other cities across Sweden and in all over Europe.
And I should also add that we were invited to Helsingborg last year, and that was also charming. Thank you so much for joining. Yeah, always welcome back. Thank you so much for proving the example. We will now... We are halfway in the program, and this is time for stretch, and also for the Madam Commissioner to leave. And we thank you so much for being here and for taking that. And I'm not ushering her out. I'm just saying that she told me before that. This is not just another way of Swedish frankness. You have to leave now, but she really does have to leave now. Yeah. All rise and stretch. Jaha, nej, det är okej. Men det var ju jättebra att du sa nej, jag vill börja med att säga det här. Ja, vi hade bara, alla får bara en fråga idag. Men det gjorde ju jättebra. Men alla... All right, ladies and gentlemen, we will continue. What if we could use the power of public procurement to speed up the transition to climate neutrality and apply that to the corporate sector? There are several initiatives and commitments to buy green in the private sector, such as the First Movers Coalition, a global coalition of companies leveraging their purchasing power to decarbonize the world's heavy emitting sectors. Together with partners, they launched a pledge at COP29 for national and subnational governments to leverage their purchasing power. And this year, Viable Cities have been pioneering discussions on how to facilitate aggregated purchasing power using cities' experience to collaborate with companies and change the game. And to give us a glimpse of the immense potential, we'd ask Christina Young of Cities Climate Finance Leadership Alliance to make a few remarks.
Thank you so much, Per. And also, let me first start by thanking the amazing Viable Cities team for bringing us together and for this amazing program over the past days, and also for inviting global initiatives like ours to the discussion as well. So as mentioned, I'm here on behalf of the city's Climate Finance Leadership Alliance. It's a mouthful, so we go by CCFLA for short, and we are the leading multi-level and multi-stakeholder coalition aimed at closing the investment gap for urban climate finance worldwide. So we bring together 84 institutions from across the world, across the whole urban climate finance value chain, acting as a global platform to produce and share knowledge, to drive progress and collaboration, and to empower advocacy to accelerate cities' access to climate finance. So we all know in this room that cities are instrumental in achieving climate goals, and our research estimates that cities need $4.3 trillion per year for urban mitigation efforts alone. In our latest State of Cities Climate Finance report, we found that only $814 billion of this financing was happening in 2021-2022. So you can see there's an enormous gap, and the scale of the gap is immense, and climate finance for cities needs to increase fivefold in order to keep cities on track for achieving their climate goals. But the good news is that we're seeing progress, and momentum around innovative new financial instruments to help address this gap, including the topic of aggregated purchasing power, which has been the focus of our discussions for a small group of us here over the past days, under the great leadership of Viable Cities. So I'm just here to summarize a little bit of the discussion, and we had quite far-ranging and insightful discussions on how we can collectively work together to take this concept forward. On the demand side, we know that aggregated purchasing can bring many benefits from economies of scale, lower unit transaction costs, and scaling of innovative technological solutions that can deliver on climate goals. We already see a lot of aggregated procurement practices happening all over the world, with cities mainly coming together to procure together green solutions. And our partners from the discussions have brought different examples from the US, from Canada, from the Scandinavian region, from India, and from Argentina, which we should definitely share the learnings from amongst this group. However, we see less examples of this procurement pooling happening within cities, where there's many potential benefits of aggregating demand in order to achieve common ESG objectives. So we're going to explore together this potential for pooling procurement across the different actors, with local governments being key, corporations, and property developers working within cities, all with a vested interest in promoting climate action. So some of the things we discussed that we can do together to kick off this further exploration. Firstly, many of the examples we've discussed are in the energy, transport, and building sectors, and we see benefits of doing more market analysis on procurement of specific solutions. This will help us to balance fundamental questions like whether we procure market-ready solutions or we look at new technologies, and then also looking at the scale of procurement appropriate for different types of products within these sectors. Secondly, cities need more capacity building support to understand how to approach aggregated procurement. Many cities face complex procurement processes within their own systems and then lack financial resources to invest in preparing projects for aggregation, particularly in the case of the developing world where we do a lot of our work and for smaller cities. So we need to support cities in finding new ways to do procurement outside of existing systems and processes so that it's seen as an opportunity rather than a burden. Finally, in all of this, we must keep in mind that the key to winning the climate challenge will be to demonstrate the cost-effectiveness of procuring green and ensuring that the narrative around aggregated purchasing power reflects this narrative as well. I'll just close by noting that we're seeing immense enthusiasm, engagement, and demand from cities for innovative climate solutions, both technological and financial. But partnerships and commitments, like the contracts here, are needed from different levels of government and working together with city networks, technical partners, and financing institutions in order to take this from a concept to a reality. Private sector actors as well need to be brought along on this journey, from large companies to SMEs, and they have a key role in playing leading by example and driving ambition. So it's a very exciting space with a lot of work to do, and I look forward to continuing the collaboration with Viable Cities, taking the insights here, taking them to our global network through CCFLA, and then also bringing the learnings from our network back to Viable Cities to scale all the solutions. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina Young, Manager at Cities Climate Finance Leadership Alliance, and for summarizing the fruitful discussions we had. And to the rest of you, it also gives you a glimpse into just one of the many broad processes that we run at Viable Cities to support our cities in making the transition as quickly as possible. To put this on aggregating purchasing in perspective, please welcome Henrik Danielsson, Public Affairs Manager at Scania, and Lena Höök, Executive Vice President, Sustainability and Innovation at Skanska, onto the stage. Scania is one of the leading truck manufacturers in our region and a founding member of First Movers Coalition. And as such, I know that you have committed to purchasing significant amounts of green steel, and you're also You're also participating in aggregating purchasing. A lot of difficult words here now. Mr. Danielsson, could you please share a bit about your experience based on the procurement last year in Copenhagen?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to this very interesting event and your really splendid commitments here. Yes, the Copenhagen procurement of BEVs is a really interesting example of how a city can set really ambitious targets and how we from the business can meet it. So far, 85 BEVs have been delivered to Copenhagen at the Amager Resource Center, where the refuse trucks with these BEVs will do the refuse handling in the city. And that has been a long-term collaboration with the city because it started already in 2022 with the first delivery, and the next delivery will be, or the last delivery will be done during next year. So, and this is a part of the ambition to be climate to be climate neutral already by 2025 in Copenhagen. And I would like to just, maybe now or later in the discussion, put forward some very practical learnings.
We love practical learnings. Do it now.
Now.
It's an order.
Thank you. One is actually to create a market dialogue early on when it comes to these procurements, so that the right demand can be set towards the business, to know what products can be offered to meet the demands from the city. And also to see electrification as a package solution where vehicle and charging needs to be seen as a package. Because now, in this case, it was actually separated procurements. So vehicles was done in one procurement and the charging in another, which complicates things. And also another is that price is not everything. It's important, of course, it's taxpayers' money, but quality is another. And also in this discussion, looking what the real actual needs is for this transport. So with all of this combined, procurement can be a way to actually meet these political goals and put them in practice and set long-term collaborative strategies between the public sector and the private.
Skanska is one of the world's largest construction companies, founded in Malmö in 1887. Lately, the company has been pioneering work in making construction carbon-free. Mrs. Höök, could you please share how you worked with how that helped you in your relationship with Slakthusområdet, the old slaughterhouse area of Stockholm, which is now the biggest fossil-free construction area in this neighborhood?
Yes, thank you so much, and thank you for inviting me here. This is a room full of decision makers, and just for you to know how important the power of public procurement is, Skanska, for us, more than half of our revenue actually stems from public procurement. So the demands, just like you said, when it comes to the demands being put early on for us in the planning and design of a project are so vital. So what you are doing here, the contracts I saw signed, that's a really big step going forward. And that's what actually happened in the meatpacking district here in Stockholm, where we had our client, the city of Stockholm, had quite a vision, but did not know all the technical solutions that's in the market. So we started to have a dialogue, just like you said, early involvement, having a dialogue, having workshops. How can we really push for a fossil-free construction site? And as it happens, the meatpacking district, just to know the size of this then, so the meatpacking district is a part of Stockholm where it's to be developed from an old industrial quarters to actually be a part of the city with 3,000 homes as well as 14,000 workplaces. And the amount to shift this is actually means for us we are going to bulldoze about 170,000 tons of masses. So that's mostly, of course, stone, rocks and soil, and those to be circulated. But to move those tons, we are of course going to crush them, and we need a lot of yellow machinery. That means a lot of diesel normally. What happened was City of Stockholm having that great vision, starting with a dialogue with us, knowing those methods and what it takes, and for us to put up a goal to become fossil-free. So this is the biggest testbed for fossil-free construction site in Sweden. And we have actually achieved to go 100% fossil-free. We're using HVOs and 10% of the machinery is electrified. And the next phase, which is to begin as well, is to actually to go 50% electric by the heavy machinery. So yet again, the size of this, it's about 35,000 hours of trucks that we turn from fossil to fossil-free. That amounts to like having 35 trucks being run daily, 8 hours for a year, going from fossil to fossil-free. So that's a power all of you, or most of you, actually sit with. Just starting up a dialogue in the early stages with the contractor stating, hey, I have a vision. You maybe even say, hey, I signed a contract. Can you help me to fulfill it? And we will love to be part of that dialogue. And just finally, I would also like to, and I know you already do this, it's very visible, we're talking in English, but let's make sure what's being said is Stockholm. Let's not make it stay in Stockholm. And a final example of that, and just to understand how far ahead Sweden is, Swedish decision makers, Swedish public policy makers, companies, academia, all of us are quite far advanced. And at times, if we are just benchmarking amongst ourselves, we don't understand how far we can go and how far everyone can go using these kinds of technologies and methodologies. So what we actually did was we stroke up this dialogue and actually put an electric machinery, an excavator, at one of our construction sites in Los Angeles. And wouldn't you know, that made the news. Yeah, it really did. It did make a massive amount of news. So of course our people in Sweden been driving these machinery at a daily basis in the meatpacking district, and also our Norwegian fellows doing the same in Oslo, etc. They were a bit shocked about the world-breaking news in Los Angeles for us to strike up to trial one yellow electric machine. So that's also about being a leader and taking leadership. Let's make sure that we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much. An important part of how our cities learn from each other is a concept called look and steal, glue och sno. So to our international friends, while you might not take any of the stuff with you, take all the ideas and give us a call and we will help you. So list stuff you've stolen in Sweden and we will look happy to see what happened with them. Every year we celebrate people whose work and thoughts have moved us closer to making cities climate neutral and more viable. So here comes ideas to steal now. We call them Viable Cities Champion. It is time to name and celebrate the champion of 2024. They will join a prestigious group of previous winners, like Allan Larsson, who's here, and Julio Lombreras, who's somewhere as well, who are previous winners, as well as Teresa Ribera, the first executive vice president of the new European Commission. So if you win, you might end up in the Commission. That's what I'm saying. To administer the ceremony, we will hand over to Olga Kordas, the program director and founder of Viable Cities, who will administer this.
So we are calling Viable Cities as a family. because we also, we are as family, helping each other, supporting each other, helping each other solve their problems and challenges, cheering for each other. And then if you are looking for all of our Viable Cities champions, those are people that were very important, that they've done amazing job here in Sweden or in their countries, in Spain and others, in order to make a great future possible. This year, Viable Cities champion goes to the outstanding effort of Ukraine and Ukrainian cities and different actors in incorporating climate and environmental aspects in their work on reconstruction and rebuilding of Ukrainian cities. And so we have 3 prize person who would receive the prize. The first one, Olga Yukhimchuk. Do we? Okay. Olga Yukhimchuk. Olga is Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Environment of Ukraine. We have Margot Wallström, who is the co-chair of high-level working group on the environmental consequences of the war. And we have Stanislav Huklik, who is the vice rector of Kyiv University of Science and Technology, who is also coordinator of our Unicity project, supporting Ukrainian universities in helping Ukrainian cities in their reconstruction efforts. Okay, great. Great to see you, Olga and Margot. And also, we have Stanislav here with us today. Stanislav. Please let me read motivation for the prize to Mrs. Olga Yukhimchuk. For your dedication to advancing the climate transition and fostering the green rebuilding of Ukrainian cities and society during the ongoing war, reflected in your significant contribution and your role as a Vice Minister for European Integration at the Ministry of Environmental Protection and Natural Resources of Ukraine. Thank you so much, Olga. The motivation for Margot. For your exceptional leadership as co-chair of the high-level working group on the environmental consequences of the war in Ukraine, and your instrumental role in fostering international support, offering strategic guidance, and advancing the integration of environmental and climate consideration into the rebuilding of Ukrainian cities and society. Thank you so much, Margot. And for your, Stanislav, for your visionary leadership in strengthening collaboration between Ukrainian universities, cities, and other urban stakeholders to advance the climate transition and support the green rebuilding of Ukrainian cities, demonstrated by your work on Unicities, a collaborative project with Viable Cities and Cities 2030, co-funded by European Union. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Olga.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And may I ask Olga, you to have several reflections and words. Please, Olga.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone, dear participants, colleagues, and friends. It is an honor to be here today, online though. I accept this award on behalf of Ukraine. I sincerely thank Viable Cities for this recognition. This award not only acknowledges our efforts, but also shows the strength of international cooperation in these difficult times. I would like to express my deep gratitude to the European Union, to Sweden and the Viable Cities for their support to Ukraine, especially to our cities. Your help in integrating environmental and climate priorities into our rebuilding efforts is more than solidarity. It is a lifeline for our recovery and transformation. I also want to thank Margot Wallström for her valuable guidance and support through the Compact for Ukraine. Your recommendations have helped us shape a vision where environmental and climate issues are central to our recovery plans. As we gather to talk about hope and progress, we must remember the terrible destructions caused by the war in Ukraine. Our cities have suffered immense damage, not only to their infrastructure, but also to their communities. The war has left deep scars on our environment, with widespread damage to ecosystems, forests, and waterways. Despite these challenges, our Ukrainian cities are resilient. They are not just rebuilding, but reimagining their future, a future that puts sustainability, innovation, and climate action at the center of their recovery. Municipalities are leading this work. They are key to Ukraine's climate transition and green rebuilding. I'm proud of the 12 Ukrainian flagship cities connected to the EU Cities mission through the Sun for Ukraine project. It is Chernihiv, Chernivtsi, Dnipro, Kalush, Kharkiv, Konotop, Kyiv, Mykolaiv, Novovolynsk, Pervomaisk, Vinnytsia, and Zhvihid. These cities are showing resilience and innovation. They are paving the way toward climate neutral and sustainable recovery. In this journey, we are inspired by Sweden and the work of Viable Cities. Sweden has shown how universities, cities, business, and the civil society can work together to create sustainable change. I am pleased that the Unicities project, co-funded by the European Union, is helping to create similar structures in Ukraine. This project allows our universities to play an important role in transforming our cities sustainably. As we rebuild Ukraine, our vision is clear: to create a future that is sustainable, resilient, and climate neutral. This vision is only possible through the strength of our civil society, the determination of our municipalities, universities, and other partners, and the support of our international allies. Together, we're not just rebuilding what was lost, we are building a better and greener future. Thank you for standing with Ukraine and for being part of this transformative effort. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Olga, and we will definitely stay in touch to develop a Viable City sister organization in Ukraine. Margot, do you have several words to say?
Thank you very much. And I want to say that I'm both humbled and happy and grateful for this recognition. Thank you so much. I also want to say thank you to all of you participants, because you are the ones working in the field, on the ground, to create a better future for not only citizens, but for the world. So thank you. And I include in that thank you also Olga Kordas, Allan Larsson, Anders Wijkman, all of you who have shown such leadership in achieving this. But you know, my gratefulness and thanks, it all pales and fades compared to what our Ukrainian friends are doing. And I want to say congratulations to Olga here and Stanislav. You are the real heroes every day, fighting not only for Ukraine, but for all of us.
So you are really worth all this recognition. Now, I have been working on this document that is called an Environmental Compact for Ukraine. And this we handed over to President Zelensky in February already. And we were given 3 tasks from him originally to assess the damage to the environment from Russia's war on Ukraine, to look at accountability issue, how to make Russia pay for the war crimes that they are committing. And also we have formulated 50 recommendations that are doable. And I would say also that this report is readable. It's easy to understand what we are after. And I think it is important to say that what Ukraine is doing right now under the leadership of the president is historically very, very important. Why? For 4 reasons. First of all, to show leadership in a way that he speaks about this, that you all, Olga also there in Kiev now, you speak about this, you make it a priority. Something that has historically been called the invisible victim of war, the environment. You talk about and you create accountability, the legal processes by which we hopefully will see ecocide as a new 5th crime under the Rome Convention. And you will also help us to develop norms and standards, how to measure, how to register, how to monitor environmental damage from war. And that will affect other countries and areas as well. And you will be an example to the world in the way you rebuild and reconstruct a greener and better and more viable Ukraine as well. And we have learned also a few things that are important in our work. Environment is not an abstract notion. It is something that you are totally, and all of us are totally dependent on. And if we talk about peace, we have to make peace with nature as well. And also that environmental damages outlives any war. So this will continue to affect people for a very long time. And we have to make peace with nature as well. Viable cities, and I will end with this, sorry for taking too long maybe, but viable cities and the role of cities and mayors and the network of cities was very crucial part of our discussions from the beginning. And we were talking also about twinning to make people-to-people contact. And I am deeply impressed, and I want to acknowledge the pioneering work of the viable cities in accelerating the transition to climate neutral cities in Sweden and Europe, as well as its support for Ukrainian cities and universities. So this work will also live on for a very long time, and it creates a possibility to get to people contacts as well. So thank you again. Thank you, Olga and Stanislav, for everything that you've been doing. Congratulations to you. Thank you, and Slava Ukraini.
Graham Slava. Thank you so much, Margaret. And now the floor is for you, please.
I also would like to say a few words. Thank you, Olga, and thank you, Viable Cities, for this award, and which is more importantly for your support of our universities, cities, and organizations, working on rebuilding and on climate transition of Ukrainian cities. I'm honored to accept this award on behalf of all Unicities project partners, which are 4 Ukrainian universities, the Association of Ukrainian Cities and NGOs. Our goal is to strengthen university-city collaboration for the green rebuilding of Ukrainian cities. In this, we've been inspired by KTH, Royal Institute of Technology, and the Polytechnic University of Madrid. Working with Viable Cities and CTS 2030 has been a source of energy and hope for us, helping us face immense challenges during the war. Despite damaged campuses and online study process and frequent blackouts and daily shelling, we have made great steps forward this year. All 4 universities in Unicities have established centers for city collaboration, signed agreements with municipalities, and launched joint projects for energy and climate transition. Notably, Kyiv, Chernihiv, and Kharkiv, where our universities are located, are, as was mentioned by Olga, the flagship cities within the Sun for Ukraine project. This collaboration has already brought real impact. Kyiv Polytechnic University is advancing renewable energy solutions, while my university is leveraging IT expertise to map heat waves and cold waves and other climate phenomena in partnership with Hydrometeorological Institute and municipalities. A particular highlight has been involving students in this work. This year we had a summer school called Shaping Urban Environments for Tomorrow, where our students from 4 universities in hybrid format, offline and online, participated and worked together to plan and design rebuilt campus of partially destroyed Chernihiv University. That was amazing projects of our students, and we are really glad that we can encourage them to join this high-value mission and see what opportunities we can have. This experience gives students not only practical skills, but also hope and motivation. Thank you again for your support. Thank you for support of Swedish people and Swedish officials, governments, all EU countries support. And I hope we can establish a sister program in Ukraine through Viable Cities and CTS 2030 in the nearest future. Together we can create more safe, resilient, green and comfortable Ukrainian cities. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
This year's champion shows the importance of academia and civil society in accelerating climate transition, and we should continue to talk on this theme. I will now welcome Anders Söderström on stage. He is the president of the KTH Royal Institute of Technology here in Stockholm. It is one of the world's leading university in engineering and technology, and also the host university of Viable Cities, for which we are very grateful. He comes along with Gustav Lind, Secretary General for WWF Sweden. So, Mr. Söderholm, we ask you to reflect how the university can further integrate sort of the cutting-edge research and education into practical urban solutions to also accelerate the climate transition.
Yes. Let me first say that our vision at the university is to take the lead for a sustainable society. So these issues are high up on our agenda. Sometimes, and I'm sure you heard the proverb saying that society has problems while university have departments. And our sort of challenge is to align the expertise that we have in our silos into having an impact on environmental, social problems that are boundaryless. And we actually do a lot of work in order to achieve this. We have several special efforts like the Climate Action Center, the KTH Food and Water Center. We have something called the Digital Futures, which try to combine several subjects in order to meet problems that comes with digitalizations, also in city planning. So a number of efforts, initiatives are done in order to address exactly what we are talking about here today. So we take this seriously. And I also want to stress that through education, that is maybe the fastest way for us to have an impact in society, bringing you graduates that brings knowledge into your organizations that they can apply when doing the job that they are hired for. But then again, maybe the most important effort that we do is hosting Viable Cities. And we have Olga among our faculty members, so who could do better than that?
A little bit hard to replicate, but I think, yeah, it's a superpower. Mr. Lind, WWF Sweden advocates for sustainable urban development. How do you engage local communities in advocating for climate policies that reflect environmental and social justice?
I think if we want true change and transformations of cities and municipality to climate neutrality, it cannot only be you wonderful people in here doing such a great job, but you need to get civil society and the public working also. And be very happy to hear the sort of people talking about contacts with the public. Alla ska med, as it's said in Sweden. We work a lot with this, with our own projects, and our experience is that we have to sort of start with citizens. They love their municipalities, or most of them do, and sort of for them to reflect, how can we be more climate friendly, and how can the city municipality change to something better? But obviously, this is not interesting if we don't sort of create a contact to you, the decision makers, and this is where it gets tricky sometimes. Great, otherwise. I have a confession to make. Before I became WWF, I worked at the government offices, different ministries, and the sort of contacts with civil society, sometimes, a little bit too often, is checking the box. You know, civil society. They might ask questions we are not prepared for and ask and demand things. This is difficult. So there have been a number of ticking the box consultations with civil society. But my experience is that you can do this great and it can bring so much, but you have to be genuine about it. And sort of you want to learn something from civil society and the public is a good start. Engage them, how you arrange the meetings. And if you are experts, or you have experts, don't let them lead this discussion, but coach the people that are in there and be very clear on the outcomes. Are they here just to talk so we can check the box? Or are they here so we can be informed and influenced? It's not only every 4th year we talk to the people in our municipality, but we do it all the time. If you get that right, it will be marvelous, and change of your cities will be so much easier. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Anders Hörsson of KTH and Gustav Lind of WWF. Today we've heard many speakers mention the EU cities mission, but how does it really empower local governance for climate neutrality? To conclude, we ask Patrick Child, Deputy Director General of Environment at the European Commission and Mission Manager of the EU Cities Mission, to give his remarks.
Well, thank you very much. It's a real pleasure for me to be here today. I want to start by thanking Anders, Olga, and all the team at Viable Cities, and for colleagues in the Commission representation here in Sweden for pulling together what has been an amazing program. And as mission manager of the EU mission on climate neutral and smart cities, it's great to come back, as it were, to the birthplace of the vision of the European level mission, which was so much inspired and guided by what you've developed previously in Sweden. And so we have today an opportunity to celebrate progress, reflect on our ongoing challenges, but also to strengthen, I hope, our collective commitment as we get closer to the 2030 deadline for climate neutrality. And so before I sort of talk a little bit more about what we've been doing recently and perspectives for the mission, perhaps a few comments on the program today. Firstly, the signing of the Climate Contract 2030 is not, of course, just a ceremonial milestone, but it's a really powerful, meaningful demonstration of the leadership and commitment that Swedish cities have traditionally shown in advancing the climate transition. And I've been really interested also to hear the stories, the sort of presentation, what would we call them, postcards from the cities themselves, which really is a manifestation of the spirit of the mission in sharing experiences, best practice, and learning from each other. And I think that this is an example which, as well as being very relevant and I think powerful in the national context, is something that we will continue to scale up as we work at the European level and to project what we're doing also globally. I also think that the emphasis that we are now developing around the concept of aggregated purchasing power, which has been one of the themes we've been thinking about today, is a really good opportunity to connect the opportunities coming out of the work on climate neutrality in cities with our broader economic, industrial policy, competitiveness agenda. And I want to say a little bit more about that later. Also very inspired to hear the contributions just now from academia and civil society. Vital stakeholders in ensuring climate solutions are inclusive and equitable. And your role in bringing science, policy and community action together, I really think can't be understated. I mean, we're talking here about a societal transformation, and it will only work if we carry our populations, our societies with us. And so both academia and civil society have a role to play which goes vastly beyond ticking boxes, and I mean, it is a meaningful and sort of joint thing. I'd also like to pay tribute to our Ukrainian colleagues. Your resilience and dedication to rebuild your cities with climate objectives in mind, I think is a really strong inspiration for us all. And I think that you embody the commitment that fuels our mission, and it's a real honor to have you with us today. And so now turning to the mission and to build a little bit on the very inspiring remarks that we heard from our new Commissioner, Jessika Roswall, a few moments ago, I want to concentrate perhaps on just three points. Firstly, how we see the work of the mission fitting into the broader policy agenda of the new Commission, which has taken office in the last few days. Secondly, to talk a little bit more about the importance of the mission label as many more cities obtain the label and then move into a really active implementation phase for the mission. And then my third point will be to highlight some of the experiences that we draw from the national networks, in particular in spreading the experience of our work in the mission to the widest possible community of cities. So firstly, on the role of the mission in the overall sort of picture of the new political priorities under the new Commission which just took office. I mean, as we know, cities are in the forefront of climate action, playing a pivotal role in inspiring all our communities to embrace the challenges of climate neutrality in line with the objectives of the European Green Deal, which as we've seen from the recent events in Valencia and the flooding in other parts of the European Union a few months ago, continue to be a very visible and pressing existential challenge for us all. And so the work that we're seeing now coming out of cities on climate, both on mitigation and adaptation, are a source of inspiration, but one where we really do need to harness the work that's been doing in support of the broader agenda. We have in the mission letters of the new commissioners, in addition to the very welcome emphasis on urban issues in the mission letter of our own commissioner, and her personal commitment visible here today. As she said, one of her first public events was to come and address this community of cities. But we also have in the mandate of the new Executive Vice President, Fito, responsible for cohesion and regional policies, a very strong signal that the President wants to see the Commission now raising to a whole new level of ambition our policy agenda for cities, linked up with a whole new area of work on housing, with a dedicated task force just being created in the last days under the authority of the Energy Commissioner. And so we see the city's mission as a good opportunity to show how the green and industrial future of the European Union can be developed out of a vibrant policy of sustainability. We've started looking at the aggregated data in the climate city contracts that now more than half of the cities have presented to us in the last couple of years. And they provide a really interesting insight into what the potential demand for investment in new and clean technologies, whether that's in the energy sector, in the mobility, transport sector, or when we're looking at the built environment and the heating and cooling of buildings. And we see these sort of emerging numbers, which are very large, of course, as a really sort of strong signal of future demand, which we can bring into the conversation about our future industrial policy, our future industrial strategies, which, as we've heard from President von der Leyen in the last weeks, under the sort of general label of the Clean Industrial Deal and the competitiveness compass for EU policy, will, I think, be very, very important. Of course, as well as the economic commitment and opportunities that the participation in the mission brings, the political declarations, like the one that Olga was talking about earlier, from the 53 cities which have now come together around the Valencia Declaration, I mean, are, I think, also very, very timely and helpful in framing this new policy landscape. I mean, we cannot, of course, with a wave of a magic wand, do everything that is set out in the letter. But, I mean, it is extremely helpful for us as we now engage with the new group College of Commissioners to have such a strong and collective statement from many cities. And so thank you very much to everyone who has been contributing to that. Another opportunity for the cities in the mission to contribute to our policy is the recently created Mission Mayors Advisory Group. And it's great also here to be in Stockholm, since the Swedish representative in that group is Asa Lindhagen, the Deputy Mayor of Stockholm. So I'm sure that the Swedish voice and the voice of the Swedish cities will be strongly heard. So my second point is on the role of the mission label and the progress on funding and investment that we hope will come from that. So we're very, very pleased that we've now got 53 cities that have received the mission label as part of our overall goal to, of course, reach 100. Our most recent ceremony in October brought on board another 20 cities, including the Swedish cities of Umeå, Gävle and Gothenburg. And those were held in a ceremony with our previous commissioner, Mrs. Ivanova, and the Regional Affairs Commissioner, Mrs. Ferreira. And so they joined Stockholm and Malmö, who received the label in the previous windows of the mission. The mission label, as we know, is intended as a sort of sign of confidence, facilitating then access to dedicated support for cities looking for innovative ways to accelerate their transition. It's a recognition of the city's commitment, but it also, as I think Lena was saying earlier, from the business perspective, it sends a very clear signal to potential investors and the private sector, who will need to make a massive part of the investment into delivering climate neutrality, that the cities have got really firm and clear plans, bankable projects, which then we hope will be attractive for funding from different sources. Cities with the label will receive additional support. We've just set up what we call a Climate City Capital Hub, launched in our conference in Valencia in June. The hub will support cities to prepare projects for investment, to provide advice and guidance, perhaps, on identifying new and perhaps unfamiliar financing solutions, working closely with other advice sources like those coming from the European Investment Bank. And also, we hope to help connect cities with potential investors. In addition to the work of the Capital Hub, we've also agreed with the European Investment Bank to develop a dedicated €2 billion lending window for cities in the mission which have the label. And the good news that I had from the European Investment Bank the other day was that already of this 2 billion, they have a pipeline of projects coming to maturity of something like 500 million. And the other good news is that they are ready to increase the envelope if and when, which I hope will happen now quite soon, the 2 billion is used up. And so I'm really excited that this really clear focus from the European Investment Bank is already bringing practical benefits for cities in the mission. My third point is on the role of the national network. And here, of course, Viable Cities stands out as a beacon of best practice. And it's why I was so happy to be able to come and be part of today's event. That you, by bringing together cities, national platforms, extend the reach of our city's mission and help us to address what is the second and equally important objective beyond the 100 getting to climate neutrality by 2030. We also want to see those pioneering cities as a source of inspiration and leadership to help all European cities reach climate neutrality by 2050 in line with the goals of the European Green Deal. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm really happy to be here today. I really congratulate all of the cities who have extended the network of collaboration through Viable Cities. I hope that through the participation of the Swedish cities in the city's mission, you will be able also to tap into the European level experience and progress as we make progress together on what is the sort of existential challenge of our time, and that is meeting the challenges of climate change. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, Deputy Director General Patrick Child. And now I'm going to hand back to our host for some final remarks. And this time we will hear from Erik von Pistolkors from the European Commission representation here in Stockholm, and Olga Kordas, Program Director of Viable Cities.
Right. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm not going to say anything about Viable Cities at all, because I think you've heard enough about that. But I will take the opportunity that since we have so many mayors in this town, to sort of step aside and show you these two flags, who you are very familiar with, no doubt. And I think in the outreach that we do from the Commission representation in this country about the benefits of being EU members as we look to 30 years, can I ask the mayors to please hoist the EU flag every day of the year in their flagpoles? I think that it would send a very strong message, quite apart from all the other things that we've spoken about. And indeed, being between you and the coffee break, I think I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric, even if you didn't want to mention Viable Cities. So we are very grateful, of course, for you and your team for this collaboration and for the European Viable Cities Day that we are organizing together for many years now. And I also don't want to be long. I would like to finalize our day today with two quotes. One is coming actually from Romania. We opened up together with our colleagues from Romania. We have Elena Simeon somewhere here. She is also, even without the certificate, our champion, of course. In Romania, the national platform was organized with 10 cities, and it was an amazing event. And one of the representatives of the national platform told, I'm asked very often whether kind of mission, whether it's possible, why do we have this kind of ambitious plans? And then my answer is, the mission is the bridge from the dream to the future. And I think we need to have it with us. So what we are doing and having high ambitions is our bridge. So from the dreams that we have for the better life for our children and for us ourselves to the prosperous future. And the second one, actually, I would like to have a quote from a mayor of Mykolaiv in Ukraine, who told us that, yes, everybody have heard about Ukraine, that we want to build back better. No, we don't want to build back. We want to build forward. So I would love to thank you so much for your dedication, for your leadership, for your work, for all the friends, both inside in Sweden and abroad. And then I hope that together we would build forward for the better future. Thank you so much.
And with that, I'd like to thank everyone involved here and in the production from Stockholm today. To follow what all of our 48 cities are doing within Viable Cities, please follow us on LinkedIn or read more at viablecities.se. Thank you for us here in Stockholm. Thank you for watching, and hej då, as we say.